couple of days ago, I made a YouTube video. Well, not really. A couple of days ago, I streamed, and from the stream, I made a YouTube video out of it saying Stay at Home Dad Gets Political. I think it's good. I think if you haven't seen it, you should check it out. I think that if you're watching this, it's likely that you're either aware of that, you came from it, whatever. Good to see you. Nice to meet you all. Thought I'd dress up so that I can be taken seriously as I talk about these topics. Yeah. As the title says, 2026, the year of the nuke. Perhaps. Perhaps. That's not the whole title. The whole title was just the year of the nuke. Let me just list off a few names that we have the honor of calling our world leaders today. All right? We got Donald Trump. You know him. You love him. Got Donald Trump in US. We got Xi Jinping in China. We've got Netanyahu in Israel. We've got Putin in Russia. We've got, who else? Who else? Do we even know who's in the UK anymore? People stop caring about that. That's right. Watashi wa Boris Johnson des. We've got Justin Trudeau in Canada dating a CIA asset, Katy Perry. We've even got Emmanuel Macron in France, who I wouldn't even say is, causing too much of a stink. But everybody keeps calling his wife a dude. So soon enough, you're going to have problems. Now, Green is telling us that it's Mark Carney in Canada. Well, if that's the case, then I guess they're all right. Canada knows what's up. Canada knows what's good for him, because as soon as Trudeau gets, compromised, you guys are done for. All it's going to take is Katy Perry coming with her, I guess, regular-sized assets, as my wife would say. I was talking to my wife a lot about Katy Perry recently, being like, it's so interesting that Canadian governor has a taste in pop music. Or maybe it's her big boobies. Elena kept insisting that Katy Perry does not have big boobs. I wasn't even being like a hound dog or anything. I just thought that Katy Perry had big boobs. I thought that was like the thing. But anyway, I said as soon as he's going out with her for her talents, her big two talents, I think we won. We got some foreign intel on Canada. There's no way that Katy Perry just decided that she wanted to start dating the Canadian Prime Minister. But we're getting off topic. Real quick. Oh, I mentioned a lot of names, but I didn't mention Kim Jong-un in North Korea. How could we forget? What do all these guys, men, have in common besides having ding-dongs? I was going to say maybe not Macron, but I don't want to perpetuate that narrative, okay? Because I'm not trying to be out here being a bad guy. Okay. A lot of these men, I'll say, because I don't want to drag every name through the mud. A lot of these guys are absolute psychopaths. Absolute psychopaths. I mean, there's no question about it. Whether it's the way that they talk in interviews, whether they talk in, news station questionings, whatever they call those, press briefings, it is clear that a lot of our world is being run by people that are out of their minds. And what else do they have in common? Well, they each have a way to launch nukes, essentially. Now, there could be a systems of checks and balances, and maybe you have a separation between military and executive power. Hopefully some fail-safes in place so that we don't all start bombing each other. But the fact of the matter is, a lot of these young fellas seem like they have a hormonal imbalance. They seem like their T is way up. I don't know if giving them some E is the answer. Testosterone, estrogen, for those at home. Um, but it's getting a little crazy. And I think that there is some cases to be made as to how this whole thing could fall apart. Now, obviously, in my last video, I talked about Iran, so I don't want to start getting into the rest of the topics without mentioning the lovely supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, out there in Iran, right? And I saw this morning the leader of their military, their defense forces coming out and saying, if America wants it, we're not getting, we'll rain fire upon all of you. And that's, again, going off of what I said in the last video, that's exactly what we shouldn't be advocating for here in the U.S. We should not advocate for a war that results in casualties, massive casualties on each side. And anything more than, one, I would say, is massive. Anything more than zero sometimes is massive, depending on the circumstance. But if we're talking about, potential regime change being thought of in the U.S. regarding Iran, then I do think that, more than one life on either side is probably too much. But let's leave Iran out of it for now. Let's leave most of the countries and their insane leaders out of it for now. And let's talk more specifically about Greenland. And not about the leadership of Greenland, who I think is handling this as well as they can with a possible annex from the U.S. coming. But I want to talk about a few select citizens in Greenland who are taking part in a beautiful thing called free speech in their country. And they're getting online. Hang on. New person in the chat. You look like Harley Morenstein from Epic Mealtime. I appreciate that. That's a pretty good comment. It's a pretty good comment. Let's stay on track. I'll box him. I'll box the shit out of Harley. Anywho, we've got some people that have been taking to the internet recently, and they have been talking about Americans. They've been saying some mean things about Americans, and I'm here to put a stop to it. No. I saw a specific post on Reddit the other day, and it was written, or at least this is what we're supposed to believe. It was written by a native in Greenland talking about their feelings about what's going on recently. And the post was titled something like, to the Americans that are telling Greenland that they don't agree with their president or they don't agree with their administration. And then the post was something like, you guys suck too, and you don't have the right to tell us that it's not you that's doing it, because that's the only way we know how to process it. That's the only way we know how to look at it. That's the only way that we can understand it right now, when your country is literally talking about taking over our country. Now, I get exactly where you're coming from, individual in Greenland. And it wasn't just this poster, right? A lot of commenters were also from Greenland saying, yeah, these people really get annoying sometimes. They need to shut up. It's not their place to say, sorry for my president. Like, you're part of this too, unfortunately, just like we are. You're right. You're so right. Okay? I get what you are feeling. I get what you're thinking. You're like, wow, this fucking machine finally points its guns at us, and suddenly all of America cares about Greenland. You guys didn't even know we existed until 2 weeks ago. All right. So we've got that post. And then I saw another post, again, from Greenland natives. It was kind of a compilation. It was a collection of posts. It was them making TikToks of like, well, I guess we're going to have to become more American now because we're going to become a part of the U.S. Sorry if my monitor makes a terrible sound there. There it is. I'll try to prevent that. No promises though. Anyway, we got to look more like the US. And so what do? They crouch down, they bend over halfway. Why is my wife's chat just there? Now my wife's chat gets just saved so everybody gets to see it. A tie, not even on day. Okay, there we go. There we go. I was about to say, get out of here, Elena, making me look bad. So you had individuals that were wearing winter clothes because it's winter. That had nothing to do with anything. Sorry, I got distracted. Yeah. We had individuals doing the fentanyl, essentially, right? And okay. Funny stuff. I'll admit you're doing some humor. Let's point and laugh at the US, the big bully right now that is the US, the big country that needs to learn that it can't invade other countries, the US. Okay. Let me just stop you right there, folks. All right. Everything that you think about the US in terms of being the big bully, in terms of us, not staying in our lane, taking things too far, pushing for military states in and outside of our country, everything that you know about the US, it's absolutely true. You got us. You win. All right. Is it what everybody wants? Of course not. Is it what I want? Of course not. Is it what most citizens want? Of course not. Right? America was and is a superpower. And it did a lot of bad things in order to get there. It did a lot of bad things in order to stay a superpower. It did a lot of bad things in countries that it had no place to be in the first place. Right? All of that was done and enacted from the orders of our government. Right? We're not underground rebels going out and attacking countries. We're not a terrorist organization that's brewed in the US doing these terrible things over the world. Right? This is our government. This is our military. And it's not all of our military. It's not the people of our military, or at least most of the people, the enlisted and the lower officers. It's not these guys that are making the decision to do these things. You got to understand, right? It's people at the top, way up top, right? Secretary of Defense and that kind of top. Those are the guys making the decisions. And I'm not here to morally grandstand and say, because the American people, mostly, in most part, don't have anything to do with a potential annex of your country, leave us alone. That's not what I'm saying. You have every right to say what you want to say right now. But I offer you some friendly guidance, a little bit maybe of a warning. And this is coming from somebody who's done some work in the, in the intelligence community and knows a little bit about, human intelligence. You guys, right now, so it seems, are perfectly happy to be running a psychological operation on the American people sponsored by you for free. Okay? You guys are out here in epic fashion, willing to get on the internet and start shitting on the American public, who really, I gotta be honest, who really are your only fucking hope in getting out of this, okay? Because if the American people don't speak up, if the American people don't stand up, if the American people don't say something about this and go and vote and go and talk to their senators and Congress, if you don't have those people, trying to help you guys out, you have nobody. You have nobody. And sure, we could say, oh, well, NATO and Denmark are going to hold their ground. We'll make this a war if we have to. Of course we will. But I think most people would agree that's not a good thing. Most people would agree that we shouldn't be starting World War III. so early into a beautiful year that is 2026. Let us all die in a blizzard in America before we do something like that, okay? You guys don't want to anger a beast even more so than it already is, okay? I promise. I promise. Because here's the deal. Here's the deal. And it's amazing to see Green saying US invades Greenland, it's over, NATO will shit on you. Green, I love you, brother. You know that. But just like I said in the last video, I've been part of our military. I've been part of the defense world. I've been part of the machine. And what I can say is we most likely have what it takes to crush any country or any country organization. And if we don't have enough to defeat them, we'll just end the world. I think that's what it really comes down to. Because remember, it's not me making the decisions. It's not, the American people making the decisions here. Go back to the beginning of the video, right? Our countries are being led by crazy people, okay? Crazy people that have the complete knowledge of what they have and what they have as far as capabilities go and what scenarios would look like if, let's say, NATO did turn on America, or let's say, the UN did kick America out. And again, we're bringing up topics here, okay, an economic standpoint. You guys wouldn't last. Don't you understand? Your country would be destroyed if you did something like that. There's no way that you guys could win there. That doesn't matter. We have people that literally are psychotic running our countries here. We have people that are, if I had to be honest with you, if they were backed against the corner and they had the button next to them, I think they'd push the button. Okay? I think that they would push the button. You and many other people act as if there are people that have a high level of rationality that are at the front of these ships. And I just don't think that's how the world works anymore. I think that when we had Obama in office, right? Was he a Democrat that loved war just like a lot of Democrats? Of course. Of course, he loved war. He loved bombing the Middle East. He loved being responsible for participating in the global war on terror. But many people would argue, and I'm sure even Obama would argue this day and age, that we really didn't need to be in the Middle East for 20 years. And if he argues against it, well, then guess what? He's part of this whole war machine, and he only did it for money, and, he should burn in hell. I don't feel that way about him, because I think he's smarter than that. But look at us talking about a man that might nuke the world. When we were in the Middle East, right, the American people themselves knew very little about Middle Eastern culture. We knew very little what it was like to be, somebody who lives in Afghanistan. We knew very little what it was like to know the difference between someone living in Iran versus someone living in Iraq, right? We had events that were happening in this country like Desert Storm. We had events like the World Trade Center bombing back in the 90s. And then we had events that was like, the big one, 9/11. Never forget, right? And whether you believe that 9/11 was some kind of bullshit plan, or whether it was just a really unfortunate terrorist attack that took an incredible amount of lives, because it wasn't just the people killed in 9/11, it was the wars that came after, right? Not to downplay the victims of that terrorist attack, But it is to say that whether it was a stroke of luck or whether it was just a really good number of events that were possibly orchestrated or just, serendipitous, right? There were a lot of moments that were happening over a few years period of time that allowed Americans to view their enemies, the enemy is decided by their government, I should say, right? It allowed them to view them as less than people. And when you can view somebody as less than a person, it becomes a lot easier with the idea of going to war with them. It becomes a lot easier. Man, it's going to do the thing again. Hold. There it is. Excuse your ears. But it becomes a lot easier to think about these guys being bombed, killed, maimed, shot, burned to death. It's the sad thing, but it's how a lot of psyops work. If you can take a people and portray them as less than, as beasts, as animals, something of that nature, it becomes a lot easier to view them not only as the bad guy, but just as an enemy that needs to be killed. Like a vermin, like a coyote, right? Like a plague. And I think that right now, with Greenland, the administration would want nothing more than for us not to view Greenland as like, they're our neighbors. They're like right next door. Like they probably live a lot like us. They are literally part of the Western world, right? You could view that for now, but if you keep getting these little things, these little feed stories that pop up on Reddit, these reels, tweets, X's, whatever, some YouTube documentaries made by fringe alt-right, or let's say, hardcore left, whatever it may be regarding Greenland. I think there's a possibility that in a very short period of time, because of how mentally ill a lot of people are that live in America are, right? A lot of people that get online that cause more drama and gets more people fired up and starts more movements, whether they're good or bad. Whether they're good or bad, people are going to die from a lot of these. If you get these people riled up and thinking that Greenland is a bunch of fucking jerks that want to talk crap about the American people, that want to make videos making fun of us, that want to call us a whole bunch of names, think about it, guys. I mean, it takes one really unfortunate event happening in America that somehow is carried out by a Greenland native, that if we have enough underlying nationalism, racism, whatever it may be, already stirred up between a lot of the people's mind in this country, it takes one event, one shooting, one terrorist attack, whatever it is, from a Greenlander to turn a whole lot of people that used to say, what are we doing in Greenland? To people that are like, yeah, let's do it today. Let's do it right now. I'm sick of these guys. I just want to plead with the people of Greenland. And it's not fun. The advice that I give, a lot of people are going to probably shit on it. And they're going to say, dude, you are a pussy. You told the protesters to stay home. You're telling Greenlanders to stay off social media. Like, if you live like that for long enough, you're just going to let the people in power win. I'm sorry. That's what we did already. That's what America has done as a people for like the past 100 years. All right? It's a big problem now. It's an unsolvable problem. It is an issue that cannot be fixed. And I'm telling you this not to crush your dreams if you're part of like some awesome movement going on right now and you think that you're going to be just the perfect radicalized group to solve Americans' issues. I don't think that's going to happen, my friend. All right? What I'm trying to say is this year is going to suck for a lot of people. Okay? These people are going to exist outside of America. These people are going to exist inside of America, right? It's going to be a sucky time for a lot of us. And what I would say more than anything to the folks who are posting angrily in Greenland forums, for the Greenlanders that are making TikToks shitting on American homeless people that are unfortunately victims of illicit drug trade, addiction, homelessness in America, instead of making fun of those people and making fun of Americans as a whole, I would highly advise that you stay off of social media for now and you spend more time with your loved ones. I would say do things that you love. Eat good food. Play good games. Watch good movies. Read good books. Whatever it may be. Because in my eyes, you just don't know anymore. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. And I think that everybody this year, more than anything, could use a little peace. That's all I'm saying. I wish you the best of luck. I hope no violence from this country falls on you. And I hope we can all survive this year and many more after. But stop fucking with America. Just looking out for you, man. When we hit hard. And I'm not saying that as like a boastful thing. I literally fear people's lives. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to get out of the military as young as I did, and why I wanted to, leave the intelligence community as a whole, despite it being a good career path, despite it being good, monetarily for my family and whatnot. I mean, I've been struggling with this since I was in language school. If you remember in the last video, I talked about me going to language school for the Army, learning Persian, Farsi. While I was at that school, I was learning, going through the steps, telling my platoon sergeant at the time, like, hey, I think I'm a conscientious objector. I think I made a mistake. I think I need to get out, right? And what did we have during that time? When I was first joining, what was that, 2013, 2014? I mean, this is when the war on terror was going full steam, right? We were in Syria, Afghanistan, Yemen, all this shit was going down, right? And despite me being a radical Christian at the time, which, I've since strayed away from, the heathen that I am. I don't think it was good for me to be radical, but anyway, the military was changing my mind a lot. Meeting people from these areas was changing my mind a lot. There's Elena's messages keep popping up. Everybody give a shout out for Elena, my beautiful wife. Now it just looks like she has schizophrenia or something. Anyway, I was meeting people from Pakistan. I was meeting people from Afghanistan. I was meeting people from Iraq that had families there that came over to this country. And the more I thought about it and the more friendships that I made and the more worldview I got, I said, what am I doing? What am I doing? I think that I can fight a war against people like this? These people are just like us, you and I. Even if they have a different culture, even if they have a different religion, the majority of people all over the world, no matter the language, no matter the geographical boundaries that they reside in, we're all a lot alike, right? We all have our issues and our obstacles to overcome. We've all dealt with loss. We've all been a kid who just wanted to play at one point or another. Some of us never grew up, you know what I mean? And we all look at things relatively in the same way. We look at corruption as bad. We look at the violence against the innocents and the young as some of the worst things that could be happening on Earth. We all agree with that. So, for me, entering into the military and thinking, wow, I have to fight against these types of people in the name of, a war on terrorism. That's really bad. But I'll say that was right around the time where I was talking to my platoon sergeant about being a conscientious objector. I was right around the time that I went home around Christmas and had my first official date with my wife. Um, what can I say? Elena ruined it all for me. I could have been a very good guy. But Elena made me, want to start a family. And here comes the click. Sorry. She made me want to start a family. She made me want to start thinking about, you know, being a provider for the family. So I decided at that point, okay, I'm going to drop this conscientious objector stuff because I can make, language pay from this, and I can get a clearance, and I can get a good job, yada, yada, yada. And now we're here. Look at that. But what I'm trying to say is, towards the end of my time in the intelligence community, we were getting a lot of talk in the office about the idea of China, seriously going after control of Taiwan. When could it happen? What kind of what kind of weaponry that's how we talked in the office all the time. What kind of weaponry would they be using? How much more developed of an adversary are they going to be since the last time that we saw them fighting in a conflict? Not just these exercises, but actual conflict. And even during that time, I would think to myself, like, man, I played in lobbies with Chinese guys. I've seen, like, Chinese YouTubers and influencers make content that I find hilarious. And those are people that are living in China. I remember this one girl in the Yunnan province. Maybe it's a psyop, who knows? But she's out there, collecting ingredients. She has two or maybe one fluffy dog. It's really cute. She's out there doing her thing, gets the ingredients, come home, make a huge dinner for the family. I used to go to sleep to those videos. The idea in my head that I was going to go to war with these people one day while I was in like a defense contracting thing, it eats away at you, man. Like, I think if you have a soul, not saying everybody does, but it eats away at you. To me, like, I couldn't imagine even, the classic battles that we've had in the past, right? Like the Cold War against the Russians. I think about it today, if we got into a conflict with Russia even, it's like, dude, talk about a group of people that have gone through such hell in their lives, such sadness, such loss. It's in their poetry, it's in their blood, it's in the way that they talk, it's in their language. You can hear the what do you want to say here? You can hear the agony in a people's voice, sometimes in their language, and I think that for Russians, the last thing that I would want to do is be in a war with some of these guys who I know have already lost so much. Now, that's my take, but, I know a lot of people that are, if they're not me, then they can die, right? People like Green over here. It's hard for me. It's hard for me to think of anybody, any group of people on this earth as an enemy, because you can't do that anymore. You can't think of a type of people as an enemy of America. It just and in a lot of ways, it's America's fault. It's the way that we've existed. It's the America that I was raised in, where I was a minority in my school district growing up, right? Like, I didn't have a childhood that was built on nationalism. I had a childhood that was built on border breaking and ensuring that this could be the land of the free for everyone, that comes here. Legally, whatever. I'm not trying to get into the ICE debate right now. But um, yeah, I think that in many ways, most people my age, most people that are of my ilk, my childhood, my upbringing, um, would probably agree that you can't hate a people. You gotta you gotta hate maybe an individual sometimes, and I would say even then, everyone was a kid at one point. But um, yeah, cheers to you, Greenland. I hope you're gonna be okay through this. And cheers to everyone in our armed services that's just doing what they're told, because whatever shit happens this year, the next, or whenever this all may go down and we'll all die, um, you have a job to do, and I don't blame you for, you know, following orders, because what's the alternative? Getting shot in the back of your head? So that was fun. That's topic number one. Let's take a pause here. Questions from the audience, perhaps? Green's been saying a lot of shit, dude. He was talking shit about us invading Greenland and how NATO would kick our ass. He's talking shit on a Trump again. I was about to say Obama. No, he was saying bring Obama back. It's just because Obama loved Canada. Obama probably introduced Katy Perry to Justin Trudeau. If I'm being honest, if I'm being honest. But I have more. You best believe I have more. And don't worry, Green. You can continue crying. We will play Counter Strike today. It might just be during your lunch break. All right. I promise all the other topics are going to be a little bit shorter anyway. But recently saw, I think it was last night as well, or maybe waking up this morning. Let me think about it. It was last night because I mentioned it to Josh. Um, Trump was releasing some texts, I think with Macron. He's just screenshotting his text messages now and sharing it online. That's what we've come to, you know. I think a lot of world leaders, if they were texting each other, they would think that, like, it's implied that there's going to be some level of, like, you know, secrecy in our messages. Like, we shouldn't be sharing this with Reddit. But apparently, you know, one of the guys, pretty sure it was Macron. It was either Macron or Carney or whatever Green's prime minister is. Green, fact check me on this, George. Um, but it's essentially a text coming in on Trump's phone from one of these guys saying, "Hey, we could do great things in Syria and in Iran," which is like, oh God, you guys all look terrible. You guys all look terrible right now. We can do great things together, but I do not understand this Greenland thing. I think that you need to you need to meet me for lunch in Paris after Davos. Yada yada yada. So there you have it. Trump, the leader of the free world, people would say. Trump, our president. Trump, who was just once a child. Always remember that, Green. We've got Trump here that's just perfectly willing to throw operational security out the window as our president, to throw caution to the wind, to throw mud on his allies, or at least the U.S. allies, right? They were our allies for a long time. And here's Trump showing their text messages to the world on Truth Social or whatever. Not a good look, I would say, but unfortunately, you know, if it was going to be a text that got leaked, it's pretty hilarious that it is one of these two. If you hear what I'm saying so far, you know that I'm not really for war. In fact, I despise it, and I thought that we should live in an era without it permanently, but that can't be the case. The idea of him saying we can do great things in Iran and Syria, you know, I think somebody commented under the text that I saw, because I believe I pulled it up on Reddit. and they said something like, we can commit genocide just so long as it's not on our own race, right? And it really does feel like that. It really does feel like that. You know, here I am talking all about my experiences in the Middle East and what it meant to me and why I wanted to not necessarily participate in the global war on terror. Uh, and, and here's two world leaders being like, well, they're not white, so I see where you're coming from. But Greenland, And then somebody said, Greenland's not white. The Inuits are mostly living there, which hopefully that's the correct phrase for it. I don't know. Like I said, I get most of my political news off of Reddit, so you're the one watching. Shut up. There's going to be another crack here. You guys really need to remind me in the chat to move my mouse if you don't want that. How did America elect this guy? Well, here's the really funny thing about it. I was thinking about that this morning too, right? As far as how Trump went, because it really did feel like at the end of his first presidency and at the beginning of Biden's, a lot of America was, waking up. Even the people that voted for Trump first. I know there was the election is a lie, January 6th, storm the Capitol, bullshit. After all of that, I felt for a period of time like America was kind of like looking at Trump as like, the clown. And there was that, that fringe group with QAnon and all that believed that, the election was stolen and that Trump, deserves to be our president. He never got out of office. He needs to be back in office. I think if you rounded all those people up and, counted them all at the time, maybe in like 2017, 2018, what am I saying? 2022, right? 2022, 2023. Around that time, I feel like a lot of America was like, let's not do that again, right? We were kind of like sobering up after the drunk Trump presidency that we had. And then, the Republicans started to run a very, very, very good campaign that unfortunately targeted the physical, cognitive, and mental decline of Biden at the time, right? To where he had to pull out of the race. Like, listen, I know that guy looked like he was dead, right? And he was like 80-something at that time. I wouldn't have wanted to vote for a guy like that either if I was a Democrat, right? If I was a Democratic voter. So with that beautiful campaign that they ran, and then the liberals really messing up with their next choice, right? And a lot of people say that, it wouldn't have been the choice of the Democrats at the time. There were better options. Don't know why Kamala Harris was picked. And a lot of people still stand for Kamala, which if you're one of those people, I think you're insane as well, right? What I'm trying to say is by the time Kamala Harris was chosen to run against Donald Trump in the last election, I wouldn't have voted for Kamala. There's no way in hell. She was crazy. Now, I'm not saying I would have rather voted for Trump. I think anybody that voted for either of them really needs a psychological eval. And you can do the whole thing. You can play the game. Even though you would never play this game for your house, right? Like, everybody's willing, when we're talking about elections of the leader of the country, to be like, well, it was the lesser of two evils. Well, it was the lesser of two evils. Well, I chose Trump because I just couldn't trust Kamala. I chose the guy that's in the Epstein files because I just couldn't trust the lady that talks crazy. But here's the deal. Nobody would be like, I chose the guy with the knife to invade my house instead of the guy with the gun. Because the guy with the gun would have shot me. What's up with that guy? I had to choose the guy with the knife. It was the lesser of two evils. What are you talking about? What do you mean? Just choose neither. Just choose neither. I don't give a shit if you're like, it's your duty to vote. You have a responsibility to vote. It's either, you put the right one in the office or the more right one, or else your country's going to fall apart. No, bullshit, my friend. And that's the kind of shit that happens, unfortunately. And I'm not saying, Green is being this guy right now. But whenever you talk about one, the person that defends that side is going to say, oh, so you just are fine with having a felon in? No, just choose a felon. I just choose a felon, right? And then if you say, well, I was I would have not wanted to vote for Trump, then, you know, the other side would be like, what am I trying to say here? If I didn't want to vote for Kamala, the other side would be like, the whole Trump is a felon thing. What the fuck am I trying to say here? God, Green, stop talking. Kamala's side would have said, you want a felon. Trump's side would have said, you want a woman who's crazy, who's psycho, who's nuts, right? Where I think a lot of us could just meet in the middle on a lot of these things and agree that these are some of the worst presidential candidates. I'm not going to comment on that. She was one of, these are some of the worst presidential candidates or presidents, right? I'll say post-Obama. I'm going to say it. I'm going to say Bush had a lot more composure. He was an evil guy. He did evil things. He was part of an evil administration. Shout out to him. Shout out to Dick Cheney. Wrapped up in a lot of conspiracy. I'm not saying it. But you know, he was well spoken. He dodged a shoe in a press conference, and after dodging the shoe, he just kind of like, right? We have those classic moments where he says, "I will not stand for terrorism," and then he says, "Watch this drive," and he fucking crushes a golf ball. Like, cool. That was cool. He wasn't getting on there texting Kim Jong-un that he's going to blow his country up tomorrow, right? There's a difference. So I'm going to go ahead and say that post-Obama, in my lifetime, can we say that? I was born in 95. Can we say in my lifetime, post-Obama, never had shittier presidents in this country's entire history. That's just how I feel. Now, you historians out there, you autistic historians are going to say, well, there was actually this time where they ran the country into the ground. You have no idea how close we were to avoiding absolute chaos before the guy was assassinated. I don't care. All right. In my lifetime, haven't seen worse presidents since Obama. Obama was good. Post-Obama, you get what I'm saying. So there's Trump giving text messages from other world leaders to the internet. I already talked about Katy Perry and Justin Trudeau, so I don't want to get back into that. We have 3 pop culture topics to discuss this morning. 3 of them. So this will be premieres down for Counter-Strike. Well, that's good. I have to wait anyway to get into a lobby. Hell no. I saw this morning that a little musician, pop star, a little Taylor Swift is now being mentioned in the trial between Blake Lively and that one dude who she said was a freak and who the dude is saying she's a liar, right? Well, now everything's coming to light. They have to share their text messages. This time they actually had to do it because it was for a case. Trump, you don't have to do, maybe he was just trying to one up the news on Taylor Swift. Excuse me. That would actually make sense. If Trump was like, Taylor Swift, her name's getting dragged through the mud. Nobody drags people's names through the mud unless it's my name, so I can complain about it. And it's like, here's Macron's text, everybody. Look what he's saying about Iran and Syria. Okay. So Taylor Swift, a text comes out as part of this court case that's going on between Blake Lively and that one dude. Essentially, Taylor Swift is saying about a New York Times reporter that was going to break news saying that Blake Lively was a liar, if you can follow all that. Essentially, Blake Lively was telling Taylor Swift, like, yeah, he's about to fucking break this case, and it's going to be a story against me, and nobody's going to believe me about what this guy did to me. And Taylor Swift texts Blake Lively back, and she's like, oh, I knew that little dick was onto something when he pulled out his tiny violin. That's Taylor Swift's text choice of words, right? Now, you and I could be different people, but I would never say something in text form that I wouldn't be willing to say in real life form. I think when, if anything, when I'm texting people, it's way more toned down than what it is me actually speaking, because you guys have heard me speak. And honestly, I've worked, like I said, when I was a defense contractor, a lot of times we were in chat rooms that were definitely monitored, definitely logged, definitely reviewed, and people definitely got fired for saying some wild shit in those chat logs, right? I've always thought about this since working in the defense world. Say it, don't type it. It's stupid, right? Uh, you can get away with saying a lot of things. Maybe not me because I'm on camera, but when you're saying something to somebody, if they go ahead, damn it, you guys forgot to tell me about that. There it is. Um, but you can get away with saying something to somebody. They go to other people. They say, "Can you believe he said this crazy shit?" Maybe some of them would be like, "Yeah, I can believe that," but most of them would be like, "Nah, he didn't say that." And then they ask me, I'm like, "No, I never said that." Easy. You lie, right? Lying is so much easier if you just don't write stuff down. But the moment you write it down, everybody knows. You're cooked. Your goose is cooked, along with your manhood. I don't know why I said that. I was just reading chat. The very end of it. I promise. Uh, so what I'm trying to say here is Taylor Swift is probably a nasty person based off of this particular um, text that's come out. She's probably a nastier person than a lot of people, would give her credit for. And here's what I think currently about the whole Taylor Swift thing. Taylor Swift is now a billionaire, or she's at least worth $1 billion. And that's nothing to shake a stick at. I don't think you make it to billionaire status without being willing to do a few things. Illuminati blood rituals. Just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Welcome, Green Team. Taylor Swift is terrible, yes. Okay, well, you'll really enjoy this. Um, I think that you have to be able to step on people. I think you have to be able to be a little bit of an animal in the ring. You have to be a little vicious. You have to fight for yourself, and you fight for yourself so much that maybe you just get addicted to the feeling of fighting. So then you just become a bad person who's fighting everybody, right? It's possible. It's possible. So I would say about Taylor Swift these days, yeah, she's a billionaire. Good on her. She must have been very talented to get there. But on top of her talent, I think that she probably is a bad person. That's just how I would view things. Um, what I don't like is a lot of the Taylor Swift fandom has never gotten off of the idea that she's the sweet little girl who was singing, "You Belong with Me," because that was the Taylor Swift that my generation, when we were kids and we were seeing a fellow kid rise up, that was the generation who looked at Taylor Swift and said, "We want you to be on top of the world. We want you to be our star. We want you to be, I don't know what I want to say here, our idol, I guess." I'll tell you what, I knew every word to that song, okay? I still might know every word to that song, unfortunately. Not a bad song, okay? She had some bangers out there, right? Romeo and Juliet, right? These songs are the slamming screen doors. Fantastic. Fantastic. Then she became a little bit more poppy, and I think a lot of my generation, the ones that weren't mentally deranged, or maybe the ones that are, because I know I am, besides the point, our generation started to be like, that's a little bit too poppy for me. That's not the Taylor Swift that I grew up on, right? And still, she has some bangers, right? Blank Space. I'm sure I could think of other ones. Everything off of that Dead Poet Society thing, though, is absolute shit. If you can't say that, then you are, you are not even worth my time. You should leave this channel now. Just kidding. Stay a while. I'm talking about Taylor Swift. This is good for you. This is good for you. I have a big problem with those types of people that like to pretend that, she's always been victimized in this world. Everybody's always had such negative things to say about Taylor Swift. ever since Kanye ruined her life. Let's be honest. Kanye, really dick move that you made, calling her out in front of everyone. She won the award, and you're like, Beyonce had way better video than you. Taylor Swift's 16 years old. Kanye West, an adult, is just like, you suck, kid. You know one of your idols, Beyonce? Yeah, she hates you too. Anyway, here's this award. Incredible. I know there were some times that, Taylor Swift got the bad end of the deal, and I felt really bad for the teenage her. But now she's an adult. You can't be pretending like she's that same little girl. She's had to do some terrible things to people. The way that she's talking in that text message, the fact that she even knows all of what's going on and can say things like, oh, that guy, like, who a writer on New York Times is. She's just a different human being than the rest of you are. The people that are going to her concerts and are buying her merch and are saying her music is still good when it's poopy. Fortnite. She's talking about Fortnite in her songs now. What I'm saying is it's time to give it up, okay? Put up your sachets. If you're 30 to 40 years old and you grew up with me in my time period, if you're still going out there to war for TS, if you're going to war for the Swifties, I say it's time to hang it up. Hang up your jacket, all right? May I suggest you listen to good female artists like Billie Eilish, Aurora. Pull out some Adele. Not her new stuff, except, what's that one? Come on, you guys know. Easy on me. Thank you. That was all me. Did you see? No chat up here saying, oh, let me help you, Sam. Let me give you that assist. Fuck you guys. All right, that was Taylor Swift, everybody. Moving on, next topic. This one hits way more close to home for me. If you guys have ever heard of Andrew Callahan or Channel 5 News, I think a lot of us who have seen their work would say those guys are real journalists. Those guys are what I thought of what journalists were when I was a kid. If I ever thought about wanting to go and work for a news station, I would want to be doing stuff like they are doing, right? It was like Andrew Callahan is what made the old Vice that was going on back in the day such a good news program to watch. They're out there on the streets. They're out there talking to real people. They give people 20 to 30 minute interviews instead of like a 30-second talking point. Then it's on to the next thing. Boom, boom, boom. These guys were legit, right? And now they have a huge YouTube channel. They have many fans. They get a lot of money. They're an organization. They have multiple people part of their crew. It's not just Andrew Callahan and his buddy anymore, right? They've got a company to run now. Unfortunately, because it's a company now, it's being ran like a company instead of a news organization. And if you didn't see it, they recently had an individual, let me make sure I get the name right. They had an individual on their show as part of an interview. Andrew Callahan drama. Let's just do that. The problem, that's the problem with searching up Andrew Callahan drama. He's already, been outed as a sexual deviant. God damn it. This world really pisses me off. Nick Shirley, everybody. All right. Let me do Nick Shirley right here, and I'll pull up an image of him. So that way, because I think it's important. I think this is an important topic to talk about. So here we've got Nick Shirley on the right. Okay. Nick Shirley there. But why not? Why not? You know what? No, fuck it. I'm not going to pull up Andrew Callahan's name right now. I'm pissed. I'm pissed at Andrew Callahan. So Nick Shirley is a white boy. We all know that. I'm just kidding. Nick Shirley seems like he's a conservative, political commentary person who might be, a teenager, maybe early 20s. He actually looks like somebody from my wife's family. It's like if life went semi-right for the kid that I'm thinking about instead of him just being a Call of Duty addict. Anyway, Andrew Callahan had Nick Shirley on his show. And Josh. No, it doesn't remind me of Josh. Andrew Callahan had Nick Shirley on his show to discuss several hot button topics that were going on in and out of this country. And before they started filming, I guess, so I understand it, Nick Shirley asked them, or made sure that he could, make a recording of their whole conversation. Channel 5 was going to do the interview. They were going to post it. Nick Shirley said, you know what, just for my safekeeping, I record this, which is apparently something he always does. If I ever get interviewed, I want to do the same thing. I mean, you have to. You have to, or else this is the shit that happens, right? So, they have the interview. Andrew hits him with some questions. Nick Shirley answers them with the full knowledge off the dome. He was saying shit. Nick Shirley was saying shit. Andrew Callahan was like, really? You have to look that up. Can we get somebody to look that up? Nick Shirley would look up what he just autistically shouted out the statistics on. And then he would pull up his phone and show him like, oh, it's right here. Instead of showing all that shit that was happening in the interview, Andrew Callahan cut out the parts that Nick Shirley was proving his point. So now Nick Shirley just sounds like a fucking crazy person where he's like, 82% were Somali. And then Andrew Callahan's like, can you say that? And he's like, I can. And they just move on with the interview on the Channel 5 news, right? So here's the deal, okay? I know that it looks like that might be one of my family members looking back at me over there, okay? But we are not all alike, okay? I don't see myself ever becoming a conservative political commentator unless these terms continue to change and morph in such a way where maybe one day it'll be exactly who I am. Right now, I think that I'm a nobody. How about that? But I'm not trying to take his side here for the sake of where he, falls on the political spectrum. But I do want to say that I think it's extremely disingenuous and sad for what happened regarding Channel 5 and Andrew Callahan. And at the end of the day, I can say that Andrew Callahan doesn't just want to constantly be fucked. He wants to fuck others. And he is continuing to run out of the good graces of the internet. I think there's a possibility that people that already hated Nick Shirley will take Andrew Callahan's side over this. But I think if we're all being honest here, you cannot post an interview that removes all of your L's. You have to be willing to let it be a conversation and not just a manipulation to make you look like the good guy or the hero or the guy that's poning, conservatives. Just be honest. It would be much better for everyone if we all were more honest. And because Green is just crying so much, I've got one more topic. I kind of went everywhere, right? I'm basically the only news station you need to watch. I covered politics, covered pop culture, I covered whatever this is, social media. The final thing I want to cover today is a sports story. Now, this isn't necessarily a story that popped up on my radar last night or this morning or anything. It's just something I've been stewing on a little bit as I sometimes go onto my X account, formerly known as Twitter. I've never curated anything on my X, and I'm sure it's doing like self-curation depending on how long I'm watching one of the the videos that's on there, or, how much I interact with a post. But I don't post on there. I don't like posts. I don't comment on posts. I think X is like the ultimate platform for schizophrenia. I think the closer you get to it, it's like meth, right? You don't even want to comment once. You don't want to post once, because once you do, you're probably a now mentally deranged person just from doing it once, man. I go on X. It's kind of like a zoo experience. I peek in. I say, "Whoa, what's going on?" And then I peek out. So my feed's a little Wild West out there usually. A lot of people dying, a lot of people getting hurt. Sometimes there's a random boob that shows up on my screen or just full on porn for some reason. I skip past those. I promise. Um, and sometimes, and I wouldn't even say sometimes. I would say a third of the time maybe it's schizophrenics posting about like the Illuminati, the deep state, the reptilian race, the Anunnaki ancient civilization, right? I like how I just flicked my tongue out when I said reptile. Oh shit, they're gonna get me for that. That was a complete accident. Maybe I am part reptile. Now you know. Well, let me do these like things here, the occult or whatever. That's exactly what I want to talk about right now. Um, I saw a video posted on X the other day that was like, look at this satanic ritual that LeBron James goes through at the beginning of every one of his games. And I've seen it before. I think it's quite a lot, right? It's not just putting chalk on your hands and throwing it up in the air. I mean, he does a whole bunch of, you know, ritualistic moves, which, you know, obviously interviews have asked him about over the years, and he's always said, like, it's just something that helps me focus. But, you know, you talk to the insane conspiracy alt-right guys that are somehow really good at editing videos. I'll give it to them. They are so talented when it comes to editing videos, because no matter how much bullshit I think that it is that they try to say regarding these things, it's always edited pretty well where I'm like, oh, I want to see what it looks like when they turn into a reptilian. Oh, that looked pretty good. That looked almost real, man. Um, I flicked my tongue again. I don't usually do that, but now I think it's just fun. I should start this right now, and then there will be this multi-year long conspiracy that I'm a lizard. That'd be fun. Um, it's just I got a dry mouth and I drink coffee, so maybe I just need a sip of water. Sip of water real quick. Hold that thought, LeBron. Oh, I spilled it. I filled it to the top. Okay. So, crazy people posting stuff about LeBron, saying that his pregame ritual that he does with his hands and the chalk and whatever is somehow connected to a ritual that you're like summoning the power of the devil inside of you, which is pretty funny, if I do say so myself. I don't understand why you, of all people, are coming after LeBron James. Because here's the deal. It's clear that politicians, that people that are part of this, you know, whatever you want to say, the deep state, the new world order, the freaks, the pedophile, the intergalactic cybernetic vampires, whatever Alex Jones would call them, it's clear that those people are much more dangerous than, you know, a guy playing basketball, and that they have much more, much more power than he does when all is said and done. Don't get me wrong, you know, I'm not saying that nobody is, barred from, I guess, making a deal with the devil, so to speak. Anybody could do something really bad, even if it's in a person that doesn't seem like it would be the normal cadre of Satan's army. But I think the least you guys could do is be like, he does actually know how to do something. He is actually talented in some way. You know, like when you go after the music industry for saying that they're satanic, fine. It pisses me off a little bit more when you go after like good musicians. Like, you know, you talk about old school rock or something and you're like, this guy who's clearly a Satanist and his music is shit. You know, if you're talking about like Led Zeppelin or something, then I'll have a problem with that. I'll be like, well, fuck you. These guys were talented. This isn't like bullshit. Like they're performing at a certain hertz, or they're putting the music in production post them playing it to make it sound like if you play it backwards, Satan is alive is, you know, what's said. These guys are playing good music. Okay? They're talented. And I would say it's much harder Do I want to say this? I do want to say this. I think it's much harder and takes so much more physical effort and time for somebody to be even close to being the generational talent that LeBron James is in basketball than what it would be to work your way to a level of playing that you sound as good as a guitarist on, Led Zeppelin. I think there are plenty of people out there that can play guitar really well, and they can almost play it nearly, if not exactly how, the guitars for Led Zeppelin. So many people are going to be like, this guy doesn't even know his name! Fuck you, okay? I have a lot on my mind right now. Like LeBron James. I think it's harder to become LeBron James than it is to become a guitarist in a rock band. Whether they're legendary, classic, or not. That's all I'm trying to say. So, conspiracy theorists, ball don't lie, okay? That guy is really good at basketball. Unless you're saying that he sold his soul to the devil when he was a literal child, and that's how he became so good at basketball. I don't know what you're trying to say. He's summoning Satan to make himself better. The Lakers are getting their ass kicked. The Lakers aren't fucking winning. You would think that if you're doing some kind of devil ritual, and if the devil was real, you'd win some fucking titles, okay? I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know if the Lakers are good or bad. I know that he played with Bronny Jr. and they weren't the best dynamic duo, but what a fucking cool thing to say that you played with your kid. Basketball. Woo! Wow, that was excellent. Thank you guys for being a part of that. That was a good way to start the morning off, I think. Green, you survived. Oops, sorry for hitting the mic. Proud of you for making your way through it. I know you just want Counter-Strike to be played. And so I think I will say farewell to all for now. I'm going to go continue on this stream where you can find me every day. And Green usually. Every weekday, that is. Yeah, it's been fun. I want to hear what people have to say about these topics. I want to know, differing opinions of if people disagree and think I'm an absolute idiot for some of my views this morning, what your point would be and what your experience in life is like too, because I think experience is what gives me, the thoughts to have these answers to the problems that I asked today, or discussed at least. So, yeah, I love you guys. Bye.